I used to think people of religion and faith were very uncool, boring, regressive, just completely out of touch with reality. Well, I guess in hindsight, some people still are. So I grew up in a great home with loving parents who worked hard to give me every opportunity. I was encouraged to focus on getting a good education, going to a good university, getting a good job, getting ahead in life, etc., etc. And I think I was definitely going down that path. And it wasn't until probably a couple of years later that I was still at university and I met a couple of my mates who are still my best friends now. And they were very similar to myself. We enjoyed playing rugby, drinking beer, all those kind of things. But they just happened to be Christian as well. And so they invited me along to church. And there was no kind of Hollywood moment, I guess, of a bolt of lightning coming down from the sky or beams of sunlight shooting down from between the clouds. It was nothing like that. It was a pretty slow transition, actually, over many months, from Jesus being to me a nice guy, but most definitely a fictional character, to the real Lord and my personal Savior. And my definition of success was really turned on its head when I came to that realization. It went from those things that I had mentioned before, which are not necessarily bad in and of themselves, but the focus became my relationships and love, and how I was displaying the love that God had showered on me through Jesus to those around me, through my relationships with my family, my friends, my colleagues, and especially back to God Himself. So yeah, that's it. End of story. We all live happily ever after, right? If only that was so. So fast forward a few years later, I was transferred to Hong Kong on a work secondment. I had a really solid community structure around me. I thought I was at a point in my life where I could move to a new city by myself and I had it all covered. But in hindsight, there was definitely one major thing missing. That was my heart. I think in my heart I was still really restless, although I had all those things that I'd mentioned earlier and it probably looked like success. I think in my heart I was still not at peace and I was still really afraid of missing out on what was going on around me. As a result, I just completely went off the rails. It all came to a head one morning. After a few weeks of pretty consistent partying, I had woke up and was covered in my own vomit. There was so much mess everywhere that I tried to salvage my mattress and my pillows, but I couldn't. I had to throw them all out. I guess it was quite symbolic in hindsight. God had literally brought me to my knees in that moment. And around that time, there was also another guy who was associated with our rugby club who had died after choking after he passed out one night. And that was a huge tragedy for us and a huge wake-up call for myself as well. I remember just helplessly crying out to God that morning, and man, is He gracious. He ever so slowly brought me out of that pit. He showered me with grace upon grace. He ever increasingly brought joy back into my life through His word, through prayer, and through the Christian community around me. I realize that so many of the things in our life that we hope or we trust in may not actually come to fruition. They may prove themselves even to be less reliable or trustworthy than we had first thought. But God has really taught me a deeper truth in all of this, that He is trustworthy, He alone, and that the way up is down. By surrendering your dreams and your ambition and your goals and your life to God, and allowing Him to shape that. It may look like it's not success to the world, but truly there is not a wiser thing that you can do that will bring you a greater return on investment in your life. Trust in Jesus. He will not let you down.